I tell John and his fan base why Oklahoma is not underrated, why there are real question marks and reservations about their ability to succeed in the SEC moving forward.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so Oklahoma fans have had a generational run on social media this offseason, and a lot of them feel slighted, right? They feel as though, kind of like you said, Oklahoma is coming into the SEC, a blue blood program, always been successful. Took a little bit of a step back when Brent Venables, first came on, but you've seen steady improvement, right? And, why is there this narrative that Oklahoma is going to struggle in the SEC, but Texas is going to be fine, right? Why are people saying that Oklahoma could go 6-6 or 7-5 this year when that hasn't been the norm for a program like this, right? And I've seen a lot of Oklahoma fans say, this is a 10-win team, right? Like this is a 10-win team that's constantly being disrespected. Of course, we'll have to wait and see, what happens on the field. But I'm going to give my, shot. I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to give, my thoughts on why Oklahoma may be, or why a lot of people think that Oklahoma may struggle in their first season in the SEC, right? The first thing is, like I started with Quinn Ewers, you got to start with Jackson Arnold, right? Like I said, Quinn Ewers, the next start he makes for the Texas Longhorns will be his 23rd. The next start that Jackson Arnold makes for the Oklahoma Sooners will be his second, right? And we saw him in the Arizona game, and it was not great, right? When you look at it, sorry about that. I just dropped my phone. I got to, get my notes out right here. When you look at it, he turned the ball over 4 times in that game, completed 58% of his passes, and had a QBR of 58.6. Now, obviously, it was his first start, 5-star quarterback. But we've also heard, over the offseason, there's still been some turnover issues in practice. Now, it's practice. May not translate to the games, but it may translate, right? Every 5-star quarterback doesn't hit. We just saw, at Florida State, DJU, right? Who was rated over CJ Stroud, and how crazy does that look now, right? But we'll have to see with Jackson Arnold. But there's at least a question mark.
It's a huge L for the Stars Matter people.
Yeah, exactly. But there's at least a question mark going into the season for the quarterback position at Oklahoma. And when you look at it, Oklahoma started the season last year going 6-0, but in that 6-game span, the only good win I thought was against Texas, right? Then after that, you go 4-3 with everything in front of you, right? Big 12 championship appearance, college football playoff appearance. You go 4-3 in your last 7 games with bad losses to Kansas and Oklahoma State. I want to say a bad loss, but a questionable loss to Arizona was Jackson Arnold's first start. And then a 2-point win against UCF at home, right? So you didn't end the season with a ton of momentum after going 6-0. You ended the season 4-3. Then there's the Jackson Arnold question. And then when you look at the offensive line, you lose your not only top 5, your top 6 offensive linemen to either the NFL or the transfer portal. So you're completely replacing that unit coming into the SEC. And then when you look at the talent across the roster, right, we're used to Oklahoma having household names on offense and defense. And maybe they have some on defense, but when you look at it, this may not mean nothing. This may not mean anything. It may mean something, right? On three's top 100 players, how many of them are from Oklahoma? 0. PFF's top 50 players going into the season, how many of them from Oklahoma? 0. ESPN's top 100 players, how many of them from Oklahoma? 3, right? So they give y'all some love at ESPN. On 3 and PFF, not so much. Then we look at strength of schedule. I'll talk about the schedule in the next segment, right? But obviously schedule is going to determine how successful the Oklahoma Sooners are. And Phil Steele has it ranked as the 18th toughest schedule in the country. Sports Illustrated has it ranked as the 11th toughest schedule in the country. CFB Network has it ranked as the 5th toughest schedule in the country. 24/7 Sports has it ranked as the 2nd toughest schedule in the country. And your 2023 opponents won 62% of their games, right? That's a lot, right? So all of that reasoning is potentially why people have question marks about the Oklahoma Sooners coming into the season and why they think that they might take a step back coming into the SEC. Your rebuttal.
Well, first, On 3 hates Oklahoma. I don't know really what else to say about that. Everybody that commits to Oklahoma gets a downgrade in their rating for some reason. I don't know what it is, but there's not a lot of love over at On 3. No, listen, there are not a lot of household names. Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, 2 all SEC defenders by the media and the coaches. That's about it. But you're looking at a guy like Nick Anderson, who had 10 touchdowns last year in a breakout season for the Sooners, 800 yards receiving. Deion Burks coming over from Purdue at wide receiver is going to be a household name this year because to me, he's a thicker Marquise Brown. He's got speed. He's got quickness. He can win down the field. He can win in the short area passing game. Listen, the strength of schedule is the reason why I think Oklahoma could be a better team, but maybe not win as many games as they did last year. The schedule is legit. You play 6 teams in the top 15 of the USLBM coaches poll in the AP top 25. I mean, it's not going to get any tougher. Oklahoma fans that are complaining about the schedule still, we just need to get over it. The schedule is the schedule. You wanted to go to the SEC. We're excited about the SEC move. Well, this is kind of what you get when you go into the SEC a little bit. And it's based on what you've done over the last 10 years as a football program. That's why your schedule is what it is. The offensive line, totally get the reservations there. Just a lot of trust in Bill Beatonbow. He's one of the best offensive line coaches in college football. Has been for a really, really long time. A former Joe Moore award-winning offensive lineman. They did bring in a lot of transfers, but they've got 2 blue-chip prospects that they've been developing over the last couple of years ready to step into starting roles. Jacob Sexton at left guard, Jake Taylor at right tackle. Do we need to see them develop? Absolutely. Jake Taylor hasn't started a game. Jacob Sexton, he started 3 games. You've got a Branson Hickman who started a bunch of games. It's going to take over as center. You've got a Fabechi Wiwu, who is a freshman All-American at right guard. And then you got Michael Tarkin, who's got a lot of experience, both in the SEC and in the Pac-12. So you're just hoping that it all kind of comes together. But yeah, there are reservations about the offensive line. I don't discount that one bit. We got to see it. I think it's going to be good. I think I'm optimistic about that. Jackson Arnold, the dude's just got so much skill and so much talent. He's got the right head on his shoulders. I mean, I look at the Arizona game, and yeah, you cannot write off the 4 turnovers. They show up on the stat sheet. But if you watch those turnovers, I really only think of 2 of them as quote unquote bad turnovers. There's the fumble where, I mean, he gets hit pretty hard and he tries to get rid of the ball and he just doesn't have a chance to do that. There's an interception down the sideline where he was way late, like so late that would have been an interception in a Pee Wee football game. That's just how bad it was. But the other 2, I mean, I thought they were just really good plays by the Arizona defense, either in a disguise or a dude just beat our receiver to the ball coming downhill. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. There are good players on the other side of the field that are going to make plays. And sometimes when you throw into tight windows, you're going to get picked off. And that's the little bit of the difference and why I'm so excited and so optimistic about what Jackson Arnold brings to the table is that he's got a willingness to throw some of those tougher balls, those tight window balls that Dylan Gabriel wasn't able to or wasn't willing to. Jeff Lebby and Dylan Gabriel were so risk averse last year, and that's what hurt them in the Kansas game. Through 3 quarters in that Kansas game, Dylan Gabriel had like 11 passing attempts. Absolutely ludicrous. They were so unwilling to throw the ball in inclement weather that it really hindered their offense. Now they ran the ball great, but they put half of their offense on the back shelf because they were afraid to throw in the rain. Against Oklahoma State, I mean, listen, I'm going to carry this one to the day I die. The referees botched that one. There was a blatant, obvious defensive pass interference on my man Drake Stoops in the back corner of the end zone.
I remember that play. Yeah, I agree.
It is just absolutely ridiculous. Now, did Oklahoma have a chance to go win the game at the end? Yeah, they did. Did they butcher that on 2 plays where, again, Jeff Lebby on 3rd and 10 calls a 3-yard slant and they only pick up 3 yards or 5 yards. And then on 4th and 5, they run a 5-yard out. Like, miss me with that. Like, listen, Jeff Lebby did some great things, but I'm kind of glad he's gone because, again, so risk averse. So listen, I get the reservations about Oklahoma. I get that people aren't expecting them to have a standout season in the SEC. I get the schedule is tough. I just see the defense and I see what they're bringing back and I see what they're developing for much of the same reason that Texas fans are excited about what they've got along the defensive line, especially on the edges. That's what Oklahoma fans are excited about too. If they can get a little bit of health luck, if they can get some injury good luck throughout this season, they've got a couple guys, especially a guy like R. Mason Thomas, who has a chance to be a breakout star off the edge, a dude that just flashes every time he's out on the field, just hasn't been able to stay healthy in his first couple of years. So Oklahoma's got a lot of talent to work with. They just got to bring it together. I mean, if the offensive line is above average to good, this thing's going to be good. Because the beauty of where Oklahoma's at now versus where they were in the Lincoln Riley era or year 1 of Brent Venables is they've got a defense that can take a little bit of the pressure off of the offense. The offense isn't going to have to go score 40 points a game for Oklahoma to compete. And that's a far cry from where we've been for much of the last decade. So I think that's why so many Oklahoma fans feel optimistic about where this team's headed. Now, where it ends up, I mean, it's anybody's guess. We'll talk about the schedules here in a second, but I see a ceiling 10 wins. I see the floor for this team about 8 wins. But a lot of it is going to depend on how they go against those 6 teams that are in the top 15 that they're going to face this year.
Yeah, I just want to say, before we get to the money, y'all as Locked On Sooners fans are blessed. I just read a full page of reservations that I had about Oklahoma, and John responded to every single one off the top of his head with, immaculate detail, right? So Locked On Sooners, that's why he's one of the best in the business. Like he said, quick word from the sponsors, and then we get into each team's schedule. A lot of people saying Texas has a cupcake schedule going into the SEC. I'll get John's thoughts on that after the break.